It's indeed a minute gone past the hour of 11 o'clock in the studio of Classic 105.5 and 105.9 on the FM band. I want to say thanks for those of you that are joining us on television. That's GBN Channel 7, Channel 11, and Channel 20 if you're in cable. And I certainly want to say a special good morning to those of you that's joining us via Facebook and other social media platforms. It's your boy JC with you on a Monday. I did say to you, in case you're just joining us and you're wondering, I thought the voice sounds a bit different. Yeah, you're kind of trying to figure it out. Yeah, I'm here with you. GT's going to get some much needed rest. Well, I hope. Next thing you know, GT somewhere on a beat somewhere with a bottle of gin and something else and playing a mass. Well, either way, that's the way you want to rest, bro. All things even to you. As you've come to expect this morning, we're going to delve straight into it. Cooperative Spotlight. And joining me this morning is the man Brian Grimes. And so I want to say good morning, Brian. How are you? Welcome.
Good morning. I'm doing fine. Good morning to your listeners and viewers across the Tri-Island State and in the diaspora also.
Indeed, in the diaspora as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cooperatives. I think it's a term that most people we have heard in some form of fashion.
Mm-hmm.
But let's assume that maybe for somebody that's just probably joining the conversation for the first time,
yes.
Before we answer the question as to how it is managed, just tell us briefly, quite succinctly, what is cooperative?
Yes, I always do that. I say, well, GT probably might get tired of me always giving the definition of a cooperative when I come, but I see he's not here today. What you say, he's in Acapulco?
Possibly. He
enjoy yourself.
He didn't leave a return address or anything.
You leave JC here to labor in the vineyard. But yes, it's important to really define for people because sometimes people are now tuning in.
Correct, yes.
We have done a series, meaning the Department of Cooperatives. We have done a series of programs over the last couple of weeks on different topics, the bylaws, different types of meetings and so forth. But every opportunity we get, based on who is representing, we try and define a cooperative. So basically a cooperative is a jointly owned, democratically controlled business enterprise set up to really enhance the social, economic, and cultural needs of its membership. So it's a group of people together, coming together under the principles of social, economic, and cultural similarities. Right. And just for a further definition of it, just the legal aspect of it, you need at least 10 people to form an official and legal cooperative based on the Cooperative Societies Act number 8 of 2011. Yes, so it's a business with a group of people coming together with common interests. Just for the layman to understand.
Putting the resources together to further their lives. So how is this cooperative managed?
Yeah. So even before I get into that, in terms of how people react to the discussion around cooperatives, there is a sort of confusion.
Okay.
A corporation versus a cooperative. So some people say, we speak about cooperatives here at the department, but some people think it's a corporation. It's not a corporation, it's a cooperative. And just two subtle but important differences I want the general public to really digest. A corporation, right, is governed by a board of directors, right, elected by our shareholders. But here's the difference. The voting power in a corporation is proportional to the number of shares held, right? Meaning larger shareholders have more influence. In a cooperative, which the Department of Cooperatives, that's what we deal with, that's what we oversee and regulate. It's one man, one vote. So it doesn't matter how many shares you have, your influence is basically identical, right? So you don't have any advantage over people with less shares. And next important difference between a corporation and a cooperative, the corporation is subject to corporation tax from the government. Cooperatives generally, they have no taxes from the government to speak of. They enjoy a lot of special tax treatment. So that's a fundamental difference between the corporation and the cooperative. It's not part of the topic we have to discuss,
right,
but I thought it important to say. And also, when I come, I always, on the program, I always ensure that I explain to the general public the fundamental difference in the type of cooperatives. So there are financial cooperatives, like the credit union. We had the credit union day recently. And we have the non-financial cooperatives, which the Department of Cooperatives oversees and regulates. Prime example would be the CTEC gas station on Morris Bishop Highway. So just for education purposes, understand that the Department of Cooperatives, we regulate and oversee the non-financial cooperatives. Okay. At times in our conversation, just for easy reference, I may speak to financial cooperatives, right, credit unions, because
there may be a spillover.
Three-quarter of Grenadians are in credit unions in this country. True. So they understand they're also cooperatives. And there is one act that governs both types, the financial and the non-financial. So you're asking, how is a cooperative managed?
10 individuals, they come together.
Right.
How is it managed?
How is it managed? There is a board of directors, right? Mm-hmm. And the cooperative society shall be managed by the board of directors. And the board of directors, obviously, they have to be in compliance with the Cooperative Society Act, which I just referenced, and also the bylaws of the cooperative, right? So a board of directors, they manage. JC, just for deeper understanding, the bylaws of the cooperative is like the constitution of the cooperative. I think that was spoken of on an earlier program, but it's basically the rules and guidelines, that give the members an understanding of how do we go about our business. There is no serious organization or business that does not have a constitution or bylaws to guide it. Otherwise, everything goes. It's a free-for-all. So the bylaws are basically the guiding principles of whichever cooperative is in.
And I'm assuming it's important to highlight that because somebody may think, okay, we have a cooperative, let's say, of nutmeg farmers.
Yes.
Or whatever it is, you want to be thinking that cooperative has greater clout than one, let's say, that sheep farmers, people in the herding, come together.
Yes.
The rules are the rules that govern cooperatives.
Yes.
It is standard, fixed, and established, and nobody gets the opportunity to dance around and do just what they want.
Right. Yeah. So, and very importantly, it is managed by a board of directors.
It's managed by a board of directors. And that we take a quick commercial break, and when you come back, we'll be right back as we continue the conversation right here on the Mid-Morning Buzz. Grenada, get ready to celebrate the magic of the season with Christmas with GBN. Starting November 4th, join us weekdays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on GBN Television, K105 and Hot 98. Monday kicks off with traditional stories and wellness, featuring a storytelling session with Labukan Creative Center, giveaways, nutrition tips, and live calls to share your holiday wishes. On Tuesday brings Craft Day with live and pre-recorded workshops guided by local artisans. Join us for more giveaways and connect through live calls. Wednesday features an outdoor production showcase, giving local sponsors the chance to shine from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. On Thursday, it highlights a local cuisine showcase at True Blueberry Resort. And on Friday, it wraps up the week with live entertainment in our studio, showcasing local artists and more opportunities for live calls. Don't miss out on the joy and togetherness this holiday season. Celebrate with us on Christmas with GBN.
Drama, I say it's drama. Western Union, the best little liquor store, Gittins Healthcare Pharmacies, Rise and Shine Supermarket, and Captain Harris Apartments. Proud partners of the 18th Annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert. Saturday, October 26th, Grenada Trade Center, 7:30 p.m.
A hurricane is more than just a storm. So when a hurricane is coming, please prepare your home. You can do this by having an emergency kit ready, covering your windows, trimming your trees, clearing your gutters, reinforcing your garage doors, installing a generator, and knowing your evacuation routes. Failing to do so can lead to immense damage to your home. Thank you, and please stay safe this hurricane season.
It's 12 minutes, in fact, minutes gone past the hour of 11 o'clock. And welcome to the Mid-Morning Buzz. For those of you that's just joining us, we're into Cooperative Spotlight. And I started with Mr. Grimes, but certainly joining us during the break was Mr. Emmons. And in case you wanted Mr. Emmons, we started the conversation just by defining and establishing what exactly is a cooperative, establishing that there is the rule book, as we say, that guides exactly how the cooperative functions. And right now we getting into the establishing exactly the management process. Who exactly are the board of directors? And we did establish that in conversation, but let's delve into it some more.
Right. The board of directors, they are elected, right? They are elected from amongst the members of the cooperative, and they are collectively responsible for promoting the success of the cooperative society,
right?
By directing and supervising the affairs of it. What one should keep in mind is that the act, the same act I always point to, the Cooperative Societies Act, it has a limit to the amount of board members. You know what they say, too many cooks.
They spoil the broth.
Could spoil the broth.
Yeah.
And that is enshrined in Section 53 of the Cooperative Societies Act. You can't have less than 5, and you can't have more than 13 based on the Cooperative Societies Act. So generally, the cooperatives that we oversee, they have either 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. I'm not sure if there's as much as 13 in any cooperative, but we try to keep it at an uneven number, and common sense dictates, that will avoid deadlocks.
Right.
If you have 5 people, 3 must go one way, 2 must, whatever
Right.
it is, it's not going to end up in a, for example, if there's 4, 2, and then everybody, there's a stay-down contest, right? So basically, the board of directors, they ensure that the cooperative is extremely successful or is maintained, and things are happening at a decent level. And on that board of directors, you're going to have a president, a treasurer, a secretary, and what else?
A vice president.
The act calls for that, right? The other members can be floor members or anything you want to add in, but fundamentally, president, a vice president, a treasurer, and a secretary should be on that board of directors.
Okay.
Right?
The directors themselves, do they have different roles, different functions? I understand they're provisional directors, elections of directors. So let's start by the two provisional directors. Who are they? What do they do?
Okay, so provisional directors are the directors that are responsible for bringing the cooperative up to the point of registration. So you form a group. You want to form a cooperative. You have a group. And from that group, you select, 5 members, which we call the steering committee, and they're responsible for taking the cooperative up to the point of registration. So they would organize things like the bylaws, do the business plan, if they have to get into contracts, if they have to look for funding, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So those are the provisional directors, and they hold office until the first general meeting of the cooperative. So after the cooperative becomes registered, they still remain directors up to the point of the first general meeting when you have your first elections. Yes, so those are the provisional directors, and they have all the same rights and powers as the ordinary directors that are elected after the cooperative become registered.
So it gets registered. Thereafter, what happens to them?
Well, they hold office right up to the end of the meeting, the first general meeting, until you elect a new board, and then they become members, ordinary members. Now, the provisional directors is also eligible to be elected on that first board.
Okay.
Yes, they're also eligible to be elected, but they just hold office. They take the cooperative to the point of registration, right, and up to the first general meeting.
I wanted to ask you the bylaws, the Bible of the cooperative. Yes,
yes, it is.
As it's written, so shall it be. However, there's always individuals who may have they may be at variance with what John 3:16 says. Who am I to argue with it?
Yeah. Always.
So, but as time evolves, persons may question certain things within the bylaws. Yeah. How are those issues addressed? Persons wanted to make change to the bylaws, or is the bylaws written, yea, sealed, signed, and that's it?
Well, you know what? That's a great question, and I will take a crack at it. So yes, you classified it, JC, as the Bible, but the Bible, as far as in Christian society, it is immutable. Nothing can change. The word of God is the word of God. With the bylaws, there are provisions for changes, and within the bylaws itself, it speaks to how do we go about making fundamental changes. As you can appreciate, businesses, including cooperatives, are extremely dynamic. The times change, the tide changes, and the members of the cooperative have to recognize that. The board of directors also have to recognize that, and because of that, there are provisions within the bylaws itself that, hey, at this particular meeting, normally the annual general meeting, you can put forward propose amendments, and the members can vote on it. So yes, there can be changes to the bylaws.
Okay, wonderful. Because I'm asking them, because the persons who probably thinking, wow, I wonder, because, and as you can well appreciate, the purpose of these forums, it's to really truly educate and give people a real appreciation. Because I think now more than ever, the conversation of cooperatives.
Yes.
If you ask me, and a lot of lots of places in India, that's what people do. Pull the resources together.
Yes.
But I don't think it's quite a concept that we've quite latched onto in Grenada and in the Caribbean.
Yes, and it's quite a pity, because if you look at the Indians or the Syrians that we usually call them in our society and the way they operate, they actually use cooperative principles because they do bulk purchasing, right? They pool their resources, they do bulk purchasing. I think that's a great example for us to follow.
You see that yesterday I heard somebody calling. When I look, I saw it was an Indian, one of those Syrians, and he had his bag on his back, and I smiled and said, that one just touched down.
Yes.
And he has to go through
the process.
He's going through the process. Where you see him walking for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Then you see him, he buys a little pickup.
Yeah.
And then, but the whole conversation of pooling of resources, especially now, we're deviating slightly. But I want to educate the public. Know that we live in a time when resources limited. Right? Establish for us the importance and the significance of even young people seeing the need to form cooperatives, Brian and Emmons, and not necessarily waiting for the public sector or the established private sector to say, listen, come and be an IT specialist.
Yeah.
Right.
JC, it's very important for the development of our society. In fact, on a daily basis, we use cooperative principles, and we don't know. It's just that as a country, we may not have, we may not harness it in the way that it should. This is the reason we are pushing it as a department of cooperatives. So, for example, insurance companies. It's cooperative principle that is used because people contribute, and then when something happens to somebody, whether it's health, vehicle, or whatever it is, then you tap into the resources for the individual. But it is a group remittance to that particular fund that allows it to happen. Same thing with banks. Same thing with credit unions, but a credit union is an official cooperative. What we have online these days, something happens to you, we go to a GoFundMe, right? That's cooperative principle.
Right.
And this is how countries are built. And it's not always about money. Sometimes it's about using your collective talent, the pooling of those resources to achieve a particular goal. And we will do well as a country to really get into cooperatives in all spheres.
Yeah, I think even more so, we need to start encouraging our young people. I remember a couple of years ago in a morning show we had, I was speaking with some young folks sometimes, these brilliant guys. They just came back from Washington, D.C., from some robotics conference. So those fellas and them.
Yeah.
I thought I was a little smart cookie. Boy, I had to, those guys called me in the morning. And I had no issues with that. And then I asked them, so guys, what next? And that's where I realized, I'm up one and y'all now, because they seem to be in a quandary now to determine what next do we do with our lives.
Yes.
And I'm saying, but come on, you guys are young, talented, in different spheres. Why not come together? And they're watching me as though, really? Well, I must go walk with Tom Jones.
JC, and you're opening a lot here this morning. We slightly deviating, but it's good. It's welcome because it's a great conversation. And that's what it is. And it goes back to the education system. It goes back to the education system where you have us as citizens being taught in a more competitive environment.
Right.
Come first, second, third. But guess what? When we all leave the school arena, we have to build our society, our country together. But because of what has been inculcated in us through the education system, we more try to fight each other,
take the other man's job,
competitive or whatever it is. And you know, in most great societies, you look at the Scandinavian countries and countries like Japan, they are very, very cooperative in terms of their culture and so forth. So this is what happens. People adopt a more competitive approach as opposed to cooperative, but I want to posit here, based on what I have seen in my personal experience, and I'm sure Mr. Emmons will share his, the cooperative principles lend itself to nation building.
Wow, we'll get another forum where we can deal specifically with those. But let's talk now. So we talk about there is the provisional directors and elections of directors. Take me through that process. Who exactly? What is meant by that?
Well, first things first. What one should know: the directors, they manage, they govern, right? However, it should be known that they come from among the membership themselves. This is where the directors are elected from, right? And generally, the directors are elected in our annual general meeting, right? Or the first general meeting. We spoke about meetings last week. You were not here. Your good friend GT was here.
Right.
And so this is where we do the election. So with the elections, people are nominated for various posts, right? And if there are more nominees than posts, then what we do, we go to secret ballot.
Okay.
So there'll be secret ballot for that, because sometimes me and you is good friend, but I ain't find you might do good in the role or whatever it is. So I wanted to see a vote for I vote for somebody else. So generally, when we have more nominations, nominees rather, than posts, we go to a secret ballot format, right? So in terms of vacancies on the board, sometimes you have a situation where after the election, somebody resigns, somebody goes away, somebody dies, right? So in that situation where you have that happening, but you still have a quorum, you have a special board meeting to elect a next member to make it fully constituted, right? And just for the listening and viewing public, a quorum basically is the amount of board members you need to ensure that you can legally make decisions. So, for example, if you have 5 members of the board, you cannot have less than 3 in terms of decision making. You have 7, you probably will have 5, things of that nature, right? In the situation where you have a lot of board members missing, and you cannot have a quorum for decision making, then you'll have a meeting a special meeting of the membership where you will elect a couple more members to properly and legally constitute the board of directors. So there's a lot. I don't know if Mr. Emmons want to add anything to that in relation to elections.
Yeah, so basically what you said, you encapsulated very well. The only thing that I would like to add, in case where you lose a member, and because members are really elected at the annual general meeting, right, for the board. So in case you lose a member within the financial year, you have the option of bringing someone onto the board to occupy that vacancy up to the point of your annual general meeting. Right?
And your ability to do that is enshrined
in the Act.
In the Act.
Right. Yes.
And more and more you're seeing the significance and the importance of the Act.
Yes.
And how it helps to give cohesion to cooperatives. Right. And it isn't just a case as some people, because I've heard persons make the argument, may I entrust this thing, and let's say I get in there and feel I just want to do what they want. That is absolutely not the case. And the Act does not allow that.
It doesn't allow it.
Right.
It doesn't allow it. And the department really is set up to ensure police, right, that compliance takes place with the Cooperative Societies Act.
Let's talk about the role of the board of directors and the powers that they hold. Evans.
Right. So as Mr. Grimes previously said, there are 4 officers that are mandatory, right? And the Act specify that the president, the vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer. Those are mandatory. Right. The president really is the one that presides over the board. All right, he has the power to call meetings. If there's a tie, although it should not happen, he has like a casting vote to break a tie. So he's the person, he or she is the person that oversees really the functioning of the board. The vice president, on the other hand, does everything that the president does in the absence of the president.
Okay.
Right? The secretary, as we know, that person is responsible for dealing with correspondence, doing minutes of the board, making sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's dotted. And it's a very important role, right? The secretary. And the treasurer is the one that deals with the money. Right? Right. Make sure that when the checks, whenever checks are signed, you have supporting documents, everything is in order.
No
right?
bubble.
No bubble. Yes, basically.
Yeah. In terms of the role, there are 3 broad thematic areas that board of directors have: governance, strategic planning, and financial planning. Everything flows from those 3 things. The governance, with the governance now, we talk about setting a culture, right? Ensuring that people understand what it is like for workers to be on time, for there to be a high quality regarding service delivery in terms of the service or the product the cooperative is dealing with. Strategic planning now deals with how is this business going to evolve in the next 5 years, right? How can we improve, right? Because where we started now, we want to be at a better stage in 5 years' time, not so?
Correct.
So the board has an integral role to play in terms of strategic planning. And of course, the financial planning aspect. You can't run any business Normally they say the cooperative is not for profit, but the reality is no business cannot function if it's not making surplus or stay alive or be sustainable if it's not making surplus. So the board has to look at the financial statements on a monthly basis in meetings. Generally, in those meetings, those board meetings, they may invite the manager, because based on the size of the cooperative, you'll need a manager, and the manager comes with the monthly reports and so forth that the board can evaluate and say, hey, this is going good, or we need to change this. We're losing too much in this particular area.
Let me ask you this question. Somebody always have to be the devil's advocate. Rule accepted for now. The board as it is always an odd number.
Yes.
What happens if on any matter that's been voted on, or two goes for, two goes against, that's 5 board members, and somebody decides they're going to abstain? Is it possible that you can abstain from voting so it leaves a tie? What happens if ever that is possible? How do you deal with that?
But that's an interesting question. Let me tell you, one of the most important things that a board member has to possess is a keen interest for the sustainability of the cooperative. It's actually in the act.
Okay.
A board member must put the interest of the cooperative above his personal, his or her, we did modern times now, of their personal agenda.
Right.
So that is a very good question you ask. It's pragmatic, it's practical, and there is a possibility that it can happen. But if the board, is characterized by the people that we expect them to be, love of the cooperative, understanding, reasonable, intelligent, they will find a way to work around that. I don't know. Mr. Emmons is a field officer. He interacts.
And that's why I asked the question, really,
with these cooperatives. And we have not encountered a space where there's a decision and that tight.
And I was trying to ascertain and get folks to understand your role specifically as the cooperative lead itself, the cooperative, how you assist. Because I will always be thinking of example, you come together and you're pulling resources. But what if in executing your functions, let's say when it comes to the finances, the person's that's...
And one thing that is important to say, you're asking some great questions. So in that situation, we talk about the fact that the board manages and has certain powers. But fundamentally, the members of the cooperative are the most powerful body. So the board in some ways have to answer to them. Right. So if they're not doing well, they can be recalled.
Boca Alley.
Meetings can happen. So if the scenario you spoke about, where an important matter is being deliberated upon and there is no conclusion, the board can go to the membership and they can untie that particular deadlock.
That's a true reflection of what you say. The power is in the hands of the people.
Yes.
The power is in the hands of the people. Yes. I mean, gentlemen, we out of time. But is there anything you want us to just highlight before we wrap?
You have anything you want to highlight? Well, really, what I want to highlight is that having a good constituted board with varying, levels of talents and stuff really is the backbone of a successful cooperative. Right? You need persons with varying skills and talents, because you must admit, everyone would not have the same set of competencies, right? So you need somebody with a great financial background to deal with your monies. You need someone with good head to make good, solid decisions, right? And it's a team that comes together and really makes the cooperative successful, right? I think that's a point I want to drive home.
Yeah, right. Just quickly, I just want to thank the Grenada Broadcasting Network and UJC for giving us the opportunity to be on here today. For the listeners and viewers, we are here at the Department of Cooperatives. We are always available for your questions, your queries, whatever it is you want to know about cooperatives. So please call 435 8779 to really, for us to give you any assistance in terms of the questions that you have in your mind. We only have half an hour to deliberate on different matters, but you may have, from listening, other questions. So we are a properly staffed department, ready and willing to take your questions and to assist you into forming into a cooperative for your financial well-being and for those of the group that
there's a traditional medium of telephones. I'm certain you're advanced into the technological era.
Yes, they can also email us at clerk@cooperatives.gov.gd. Let me say it again, clerk@cooperatives.gov.gd, or call us at 435-8779. Right?
You also have a Facebook page as well.
Oh, of course, a Facebook page, the Facebook page, social media page. We'll have all that information so you can get to us there also.
See, that's why there's always an artist. There's three of us here. He broke the tie on you. Folks, Brian, everyone, appreciate your time and effort in being here. Folks, this is where we leave the conversation on GBN Cooperative Spotlight. Join us again next week, Monday, same place, where we'll be discussing a different matter that would certainly stir your faculties just a bit. Reminding you, at the top of the hour, we joined the newsroom for the midday edition, a production, of course, certainly of the News and Current Affairs Department, highlighting the matters of national importance. Until then, I'll be here with you, keeping you company up until just around 10 minutes to the hour. Till then, so long, everybody. Those of you that's on the radio, and I say